The square is alive with movement. Mothers tugging children by the hand. Businessmen hurrying with phones pressed to their ears. The rhythmic chatter traffic rolling down Main Street. And then stillness. At the far end of the square sits an old man, alone, silent, watching the world as if from a great distance. He wears a navy ball cap, faded nearly white from sun, the brim frayed, the lettering almost gone. A battered duffel bag rests at his feet, canvas worn thin from decades of use. His shoulders are stooped, his hair thin and silver. To most who pass, he looks like nothing more than another relic left behind by time. And in this town, relics are easy to ignore. Children are the cruelest critics. "Hey, look, it's the old hobo," one boy shouts, his friends snickering as they toss an empty soda can toward the bench. The can rattles against the old man's shoe. He doesn't flinch, doesn't move, just keeps staring ahead, eyes fixed on something unseen. A mother hushes the boys, but even she doesn't look his way. She grabs their hands and pulls them along, muttering, "Don't bother him." Businessmen stride past without a glance. A jogger cuts wide around the bench, as if afraid the man might rise and ask for money. And every day it's the same. He is invisible, except when he isn't, and then he is the target of whispers. Drunk, crazy, lost his mind. No one asks his name. No one dares. But Maggie knows better. From her diner window across the street, she watches him with quiet eyes. She's seen that duffel bag before. She's seen men like him walk into her diner at dawn, stiff from sleeping in their trucks, ball caps pulled low to hide the haunted look in their eyes. She knows the signs of a veteran. But Maggie keeps her knowledge to herself. People in this town aren't kind to reminders of wars they never fought. The old man sits still, but inside his mind there's movement, shadows of years gone by. He hears the crack of distant gunfire, feels the rush of cold surf against his chest as he slips from black water onto hostile sand. He sees faces, some smiling, some lost forever. Every day he comes here, to this bench, not because there's nowhere else to go, but because it is the last piece of ground where he still feels invisible enough to remember. Late one afternoon, the air heavy with summer heat. 3 young men swagger across the square. Loud, cocky, full of the arrogance only you can afford. One wears a backward cap. Another carries a Bluetooth speaker, blasting music. The third is built thick, tattoos crawling up his arms. They notice the old man and slow their pace. "Look at this guy," the big one sneers. "Probably smells like whiskey and piss." They circle closer, emboldened by each other's laughter. The jogger from earlier crosses to the far sidewalk. A businessman ducks into a shop to avoid the scene. No one intervenes. "Hey, old man," one of the punks says, kicking at the duffel bag. "What's in here, huh? Old socks? Maybe some booze." No answer. The big one shoves the old man's shoulder. Not hard, just enough to test. Still nothing. The silence unnerves them. "You deaf or just stupid?" Another asks. He leans close, waving a hand in front of the man's face. Finally, the old man turns his head, slowly, deliberately. For the first time, they see his eyes, not clouded with age, not glassy with drink, but sharp, piercing, cold as the ocean at midnight. The punks laugh nervously, but something in that stare unsettles them. It is the look of a man who has seen violence and walked away from it. "Whatever, old man," the big one says, giving him a harder shove this time. The old man absorbs the impact without a word. His hands remain folded in his lap, his duffel bag still at his feet, but his eyes, those eyes burn. Across the street, Maggie sees it. A flicker, a flash of something beneath the surface. She has seen men look that way before. Men who came home from tours overseas, their rage buried deep until someone poked too hard. She grips the counter of her diner, whispering under her breath, "Don't push him. Don't push him." But the punks don't listen. They laugh louder, voices echoing in the square. To them, he's just an old man too weak to defend himself. They don't know they're standing inches from a predator who once carried a rifle through jungles and deserts, who once moved through shadows where the wrong sound meant death. They don't know that the man they mock once wore the trident of a Navy SEAL. And though his body may look fragile, his instincts are anything but. The big one raises his hand as if to slap the cap from the old man's head. The square goes quiet. A mother pulls her child away. An old veteran across the street stiffens, muttering, "Careful, son. You don't know who you're messing with." But no one intervenes. The punk's hand hovers in the air, waiting. The old man tilts his head, just slightly, enough for the movement to register. It isn't a flinch. It isn't fear. It is calculation. Behind those eyes, wheels turn, angles measured, responses considered. In his mind, he's back on a beach halfway across the world, facing enemies who underestimate him then just as these kids do now. And for the first time in decades, the old man feels something stirring, something dangerous, something he has kept buried for too long. The punk's hand lowers. He mutters something crude, gives one last shove, and the three of them walk off laughing. To the crowd, it looks like nothing happened. Just another old man humiliated. But Maggie knows what she saw. The look in his eyes, the way his muscles coiled beneath the stillness, the way he let them go, for now. The square returns to its normal rhythm. Children play. Cars pass. The world forgets again. But on the bench, the old man doesn't move. His fingers trace the brim of his faded Navy cap. His gaze follows the punks as they disappear into the crowd. And though his body remains motionless, his mind whispers the truth he's tried to silence for years. Old men don't forget. Old men don't forgive. The square quiets as dusk settles in, but inside Maggie's diner, the chatter carries. Plates clink, coffee pours, and old neon hums at the window. From her spot behind the counter, Maggie watches the bench outside. The old man hasn't moved, still rooted there like a statue carved from weather and time. The punks are long gone, but his presence lingers, like a storm gathering far off at sea. She dries a glass with a towel, her eyes never leaving him. "Don't know why you waste time staring at him," says Earl, a retired mechanic sitting at the counter. "Guy's just a bum. Been here for years. Never seen him order a meal." Maggie doesn't answer at first. She slides a slice of pie toward Earl, then finally murmurs, "You ever wonder why he carries that bag? Or that cap?" Earl chuckles. "Cap don't mean nothing. I got one just like it at the gas station down the road. Anybody can wear it." But Maggie knows better. She has seen the way the old man's eyes sharpen when kids mock him. She has seen the stillness in his posture. Not the slouch of a drunk, but the patience of a hunter. She glances again at the duffel bag resting at his feet. Worn. Heavy. Not the kind of bag a man drags around, unless it means something. In the corner booth, young Deputy Kyle Maddox overhears. He's a nephew of Carl Maddox, the town's wealthiest developer, and he wears his badge like a fashion accessory. The smirk on his face is sharper than the crease in his uniform. "You're wasting your sympathy, Maggie," Kyle says loud enough for half the diner to hear. "That guy's no vet. He's just a squatter. Town be cleaner without him." Earl nods in agreement. "Here, here." Maggie's jaw tightens. "Careful, Kyle. You don't know who you're talking about." Kyle leans back in his booth, grinning. "Oh, I know exactly who I'm talking about. Some washed-up old-timer who can't hold his liquor. And if Uncle Carl has his way, that bench will be gone soon anyway. Along with him." The words hang heavy. Maggie doesn't reply, but something twists in her gut. The old man finally rises from a bench, slowly, like a ship easing off moorings. He lifts the duffel bag onto his shoulder with surprising steadiness. His gaze scans the square, not hurried, not timid, but deliberate. Through the diner window, his eyes lock with Maggie's, just for a moment. And in that brief connection, Maggie feels it. Not weakness, not drunken haze, but weight. Years of it. Decades of memories carried like a rucksack too heavy for anyone else to bear. She whispers, almost to herself, "Who are you?" Later that evening, when the diner empties and the neon buzzes against the night, Maggie pulls a small box from under the counter. Inside are photos, her father's Navy days, pictures faded from Vietnam, Polaroids of men with mud on their faces and courage in their eyes. She picks up one photo, one she has looked at 100 times. A squad lined up on a riverbank, and there, on the far left, a face she recognizes. The old man, younger, sharper, but unmistakable. Her hand trembles slightly as she sets the photo down. He isn't just some drifter. He isn't just a shadow haunting a park bench. He was one of them. The next morning, whispers ripple through the town. The punks brag about pushing the old man around. People laugh. Others shake their heads. But whispers spread faster than truth. And soon, the story mutates. He's a drunk. He used to be in the military, got kicked out. He's dangerous. Crazy. By noon, most of the town has an opinion. Few are kind. Kyle Maddox fuels the fire. At the sheriff's office, he tells anyone who'll listen that the old man is loitering, maybe even a threat. Guy's got that wild look, Kyle says. Wouldn't be surprised if he snapped one day. The sheriff, tired and overworked, waves him off. You're chasing shadows, Kyle. Let it go. But Kyle doesn't let things go, especially when his uncle wants the square cleaned up for his next development project. That afternoon, the old man returns to the bench, bag at his feet, cap pulled low. The cycle repeats. Businessmen ignoring him, kids mocking him, strangers dismissing him. But this time, Maggie doesn't watch from a window. She steps outside, apron still tied around her waist, and crosses the street. The old man doesn't move as she approaches, his gaze fixed on something beyond her, distant, heavy. She clears her throat. Coffee? She asks, holding out a paper cup. For the first time, he turns toward her. His movements are measured, controlled. His eyes narrow slightly, studying her like she's a puzzle. After a long pause, he reaches out, takes the cup, nods once. It isn't gratitude in the usual sense. It's acknowledgement, a soldier's way of saying thank you without wasting words. Maggie exhales. My dad served. Navy. I've seen that look before. The old man doesn't answer, just sips the coffee, silent. But in the reflection of the diner window, Maggie catches it. The faintest flicker of emotion, recognition. That night, as streetlights hum over the empty square, Kyle Maddox and two of his buddies wander past. They see the old man still sitting there, sipping what's left of his coffee. Kyle smirks. Uncle Carl's right. He's in the way. One buddy laughs. You gonna move him yourself? Kyle's grin widens. Maybe I will. They approach the bench. The old man doesn't move, doesn't flinch. His bag sits between his boots, hands folded on his lap. Kyle leans down, voice dripping with mockery. Heard you used to be a SEAL or something. That true, old man? Or just another lie to get free coffee? Still, no response. Kyle straightens, annoyed. You hear me? Finally, the old man's eyes lift. Calm, cold, the same eyes Maggie saw before. The same eyes that once stared through jungle mist and desert dust. Kyle takes a step back without realizing it. Something in those eyes rattles him. Come on, man. His buddy mutters, tugging his sleeve. Let's go. But Kyle forces a laugh. Nah, he's just a washed-up ghost. Across the square, Maggie watches from the diner doorway, heart racing. She sees it again, that flicker in the old man's stare. Not weakness, not fear. Something else. Something waiting. The afternoon sun hangs heavy over the square, baking the bricks until they shimmer. Heat waves ripple off the pavement, but on the bench, the old man sits unmoving. His navy ball cap casts a shadow across his face, concealing the storm brewing behind those eyes. For days, the whispers have grown louder. By now, half the town believe the rumors, that he's a drunk, a squatter, a danger. The other half doesn't care enough to ask. But one man does. Carl Maddox. Carl is the kind of man who fills a room before he even walks in. Expensive suit, gold watch, teeth too white to be honest. He made his fortune tearing down old buildings and replacing them with sterile condos. And now, he has his sights set on the square. But there's one problem. Every time he drives past, there's that old man, sitting on the same bench, bag at his feet, like a monument Carl can't control. And Carl Maddox doesn't tolerate what he can't control. That evening, as the sun begins to set, Carl sends a message. 3 men approach the bench. Not punks this time. Professionals, if such a word can be used for thugs who work out of Maddox's pocket. Broad shoulders, cheap tattoos, knuckles scarred from too many fights. One carries a crowbar, the other a chain wrapped around his fist. The third, silent and mean-eyed, keeps his hands in his jacket. The old man watches them come. He doesn't move, doesn't flinch. His duffel bag rests between his boots, zipper shut tight. Evening, Grandpa, the one with the crowbar, says, "Carl Maddox says you're sitting on private property." The old man tilts his head, slow as the turning of a tide. "This bench," he says, voice gravel rough, "is public." The men chuckle. Not for long. Carl's buying it, which means you're trespassing. Time for you to move along. The old man looks back toward the diner. Maggie is watching from the window, dish towel frozen in her hands. His gaze returns to the men. He doesn't rise. He doesn't answer. The silence unsettles them. The thug with the chain steps closer, swinging it lazily in one hand. "What's in the bag, old-timer?" "Gonna share." He nudges the duffel with his boot. The bag shifts. The zipper strains. For a heartbeat, something metallic catches the last of the sun. The old man's hand moves, just slightly, fingers tightening on his knee, muscles coiling under skin. But he doesn't stand. "Let's have a look," the crowbar man says, reaching down. The old man's voice cuts through the air, low and sharp. "Don't." The word freezes in mid-motion. It isn't a plea. It isn't a warning. It's a command. A tone sharpened by years of giving orders men obeyed without hesitation. But these aren't men of discipline. They're thugs. And they laugh. "Or what?" The crowbar man taunts. "You gonna stop me?" He grabs the bag and yanks it open. Inside, not bottles, not trash, not the relics of a broken drunk. A folded American flag. A leather-bound journal, edges worn. And underneath, sketches, precise, technical, tactical. The man frowns. What the hell is this? The old man doesn't answer. His eyes burn. The silent thug in the jacket finally speaks, voice low. "This ain't no bum's bag. These are military marks." The others scoff, but doubt creeps into their eyes. The crowbar man slams the bag shut and shoves it into the old man's chest. "Doesn't matter. Carl wants you gone. You got 2 choices. Walk away now or we drag you out." The old man rises. Slowly, deliberately, for the first time in years, his full height straightens. His frame may be older, his joints stiff, but there's power in the way he moves, controlled, precise, disciplined. He shoulders the duffel bag and steps forward until the men instinctively back up. Not much, just an inch, but enough to betray fear. His eyes sweep across them. "Tell Carl Maddox," he says, voice steady as stone, "I don't move for men like him." The chain thug sneers. Big words for a relic. He shoves the old man hard. The impact rocks him back a step. He steadies, jaw tightening. Maggie gasps from the diner window. Earl at the counter mutters, "Don't do it, old man. Don't." But he doesn't strike. Not yet. Instead, he does something more dangerous. He smiles. Just a flicker, quick and cold, like a knife glinting in the dark. The thugs hesitate. For the first time, they wonder if maybe this isn't the easy job they thought it was. But pride is louder than fear. "Let's go." The crowbar man growls, lifting the weapon. They close in. The square falls silent. And the old man's eyes narrow, calculating. Across the street, Maggie whispers, "Don't push him." She knows what's about to happen. She's seen the look before, in photos of her father's unit, in the eyes of men trained to endure Hell Week and come out harder than iron. The thugs see only an old man. They don't see the predator waking beneath the surface. The crowbar lifts higher. The chain swings faster. The silent one's hand dips into his jacket. And then, the old man shifts his weight, body coiling like a spring. His hand drifts toward the duffel strap. His eyes lock onto the nearest threat. For the first time, he is ready to move. And when he does, This square will never see him the same again. The crowbar swings down. Time slows. The sound of steel cutting through the humid evening air is loud enough for the whole square to hear. The old man moves, not with the clumsy panic of a drunk or the sluggish defense of someone too old to fight. No, his movement is crisp, precise, deliberate. His left hand shoots up, catching the crowbar mid-arc. The thug's eyes widen in shock as his arm stops dead. Strength useless against the iron grip now clamped on his wrist. The old man twists. Bone pops. The crowbar clatters to the pavement. Gasps ripple through bystanders. The chained thug charges, swinging wildly. The chain whistles through the air, fast, reckless. The old man steps in, closer than the thug expects. The chain whips past his ear harmlessly. His elbow drives into the thug's ribs, short and brutal. The kind of strike designed not for style, but for ending fights. The thug collapses with a groan, air punched from his lungs. 2 down. The third man, the silent one, finally draws. A pistol. The metallic click echoes across the square. For the first time, the crowd screams. Mothers pull children back. Doors slam shut. But the old man doesn't flinch. He's already moving. A sharp kick to the fallen crowbar sends it skidding across the ground, striking the gunman's wrist. The pistol jerks sideways. The old man closes the gap before man can fire again, grabbing his arm, twisting it into a lock, so painful the gun drops. The weapon hits the pavement. The old man kicks it far across the square, never breaking his grip. A heartbeat later, the silent thug is face down on the bricks, arm pinned behind his back, throat pressed against the cold edge of the bench. The fight is over in less than 10 seconds. The square is silent. Nobody breathes. The old man straightens, releasing his grip. His face is calm, controlled. Not a drop of sweat. Not a tremor in his hands. The thugs stagger away, groaning, limping, clutching their injuries. None dare look back at him. Maggie stands frozen at her diner door, pie tray still in her hand. Earl mutters under his breath, voice shaking. That was sealed work. No doubt in my damn mind. The old man lowers himself back to the bench, slow and deliberate, as if nothing has happened. He picks up his duffel bag, zips it shut, and sits. The crowd stares, whispering, afraid. But Maggie sees something the others miss. The way his eyes linger on the gun lying far across the square. Not in fear, but in memory. Because inside his head, he isn't the town square anymore. He's back in the jungle, Vietnam. The air thick with humidity and gunpowder. The smell of wet earth and smoke clogging his lungs. His heart pounding, not from fear, but from the rhythm of combat drilled into his bones. On your 6, Hawk, a teammate yells. Gunfire rattles through the trees. Young James Harlow, Hawk, moves like a shadow, his M16 braced tight, eyes scanning, fingers steady on the trigger. He doesn't think. He reacts. Training takes over. Every breath, every shot, every movement is pure muscle memory. In the chaos, his team trusts him to see what others miss, to strike where others hesitate. Back then, he was the youngest in the unit. Now, in this small town, he's the oldest. But the instinct never left. He blinks, and he's back on the bench. The crowd still watching. The thugs stumbling away. The whispers louder now. What just happened? He moved like he was 40 years younger. No, like a soldier. The sheriff's deputy, Kyle Maddox, arrives late, as always. He sees the aftermath. Thugs on the ground, townsfolk shaken, and the old man sitting calmly, cap pulled low. What the hell's going on here? Kyle demands. Nobody answers. Nobody dares. Maggie finally speaks. He defended himself. Those men came at him. Kyle sneers. That's so. He glares at the old man. You're lucky you didn't kill someone. This town doesn't need vigilantes. The old man says nothing, just looks at him. Kyle feels it, the weight of that stare, the same stare that froze his uncle's men. For a flicker of a second, Kyle looks away. That night, the old man doesn't go home, because home doesn't exist anymore. His house was sold years ago. His family scattered. Instead, he walks the pier. The waves crash beneath the planks. Salt air heavy in his lungs. The moonlight cuts across his face. Silver against silver hair. He kneels at the edge and pulls something from his duffel. A journal. He flips it open. Pages filled with sketches. Maps of the town. Diagrams of sightlines. Entries written in sharp block letters. Not the notes of a madman. The notes of a tactician. Every detail of the square drawn with military precision. Every alley, every blind spot, every route of escape. He has been watching, planning, preparing, not because he wants to fight, but because he knows it's coming, and because part of him misses it. A sound cuts through the night. Tires on gravel. He looks up, across the water. At the far end of the pier, headlights flicker on. Carl Maddox, watching. The engine idles. The glow of a cigar ember flares in the driver's seat. The old man doesn't move, doesn't blink. Maddox grins through the windshield, raises 2 fingers to his brow in a mock salute, then drives off. The old man exhales. The lion is awake now, and the hunters are circling. The morning after the fight in the square, the town feels different. Not quieter, tenser. The gossip runs faster than the truth. By sunrise, stories of the bench old man have already spread through every diner booth, every construction site, every church pew. Depending on who's talking, he's either a washed-up vet who finally snapped or something far more dangerous. The sheriff's office door creaks open. Inside, fluorescent lights hum over a room of stale coffee and old paperwork. Deputy Kyle Maddox leans back in his chair, boots propped up on his desk, smirking as the old man steps in. James Hawk. Harlow doesn't ask permission. He walks straight to the front desk, journal tucked under his arm. His voice is low, steady. We got a problem. A real one. Kyle scoffs. The only problem I saw yesterday was you, old man. 3 punks in the hospital. A town spooked out his mind. They weren't punks, Hawk replies. They were muscle, testing the water, and the man who sent them won't stop here. Kyle pretends to yawn. What man? You talking about Ghost again? Vietnam flashbacks? Look, he points at Hawk with his coffee mug. Why don't you sit back on your bench and let the actual law handle this town? Hawk places a journal on the desk, flipping it open. The sketches, the maps, the notes, routes of approach, ambush points, areas vulnerable to assault. This isn't paranoia, Hawk says. It's reconnaissance. Whoever controls this town controls the port. And whoever controls the port, he taps the map, finger landing on the docks, controls millions in product moving up the coast. Kyle glances at the journal, then chuckles. You've been drawing pictures like some kind of doomsday prepper. Cute, but this isn't the Navy, old man. This is Mayfield. Population 8,000. We don't need war plans. We need peace. Hawk leans closer. His voice cuts sharp. Peace isn't bought with ignorance. It's bought with vigilance. And right now, you're blind. For the first time, Kyle loses his smirk. He doesn't like the way Hawk looks at him, like he can see through him. He slams the journal shut and shoves it back across the desk. I'm not playing games. You want to keep spinning war stories, fine. But if you keep causing trouble in my town, you won't be walking free next time. Hawk studies him. Silent. Then he picks up the journal, tucks it under his arm, and turns for the door. Before leaving, he pauses. When the shooting starts, remember I warned you. That night, the town sleeps uneasily. But Hawk doesn't. He walks the perimeter of the square, the docks, the alleys, every step measured, every shadow studied. His body may ache, his knees stiff from years of service, but his eyes, those remain sharp. At the edge of town, headlights appear again. Same car, same glowing cigar ember. Carl Maddox. This time, the car doesn't just idle. It creeps closer, stops 20 feet away. The window rolls down. Smoke drifts out. Carl's voice cuts the night, smooth and venomous. Hell of a show yesterday, sailor. Almost had me believing you still mattered. Hawk doesn't respond. Carl continues. But this isn't Nam, And it isn't your little SEAL team anymore. This is my town, my port, and you're just an old relic waiting to rust. Hawk finally speaks, voice calm but razor-edged. I buried men tougher than you in countries you can't pronounce. Carl chuckles, a low, dangerous laugh. You keep meddling and you'll be joining them. Difference is, nobody's going to remember where I put you. The car door opens. For a moment, it looks like Carl might step out, but he doesn't. He just flicks a cigar into the dirt, smirks, and drives off into the night. The following morning, Hawk makes one last attempt. He finds Maggie at her diner before opening hours. She's wiping down the counter, her hands trembling slightly. You need to leave this town, Maggie. Hawk says, it's about to get bad. Worse than anyone here is ready for. She shakes her head. This is my home. My father built this place with his own hands. You think I'm just going to walk away? Hawk studies her for a long moment. The same resolve he once saw in teammates before a mission. Ordinary people with extraordinary backbone. You remind me of someone I knew, he finally says. A corpseman. She saved lives under fire while men twice her size froze. Stubborn as hell. Paid for it, too. Maggie looks up at him. What happened to her? Hawk exhales. She didn't walk away when she should have. The silence between them is heavy, but Maggie doesn't look afraid. She looks determined. Later that day, Hawk sits once more on his bench. But this time he isn't watching the town. He's waiting. The bench is no longer a place of rest. It's a post. From across the square, whispers follow him. Children pointing. Adults pretending not to look. Some see him as a hero, others as a threat. And just when the tension begins to feel unbearable, 3 black SUVs roll into the square. Windows tinted, engines rumbling, doors open. Men in suits step out, earpieces glinting under the sun. Not street thugs. Not Carl's usual crew. Something bigger. The town holds its breath. And Hawk smiles. Just slightly. Because he's seen this move before. And he knows exactly what it means. The town square is locked in silence. The men in suits stand like statues, their black SUVs forming a barricade of steel and tinted glass. Mothers pull children closer. Old farmers remove their caps, squinting into the sun. Everyone knows something is about to happen. Something that will change Mayfield forever. And in the center of it all, James Hawk, Harlow, doesn't flinch. Come with us, the lead suit repeats. His hand hovers near his jacket, where the outline of a concealed pistol bulges. The deputies stand frozen on the courthouse steps. Sheriff Cole mutters to himself, trying to decide whether to intervene or just let the old man get dragged off. Deputy Kyle smirks, hoping the problem will take care of itself. But Hawk, he simply shakes his head. Not today, son. Before anyone can react, Hawk raises 2 fingers to his lips, an old signal, invisible to most, unmistakable to a certain few. The suits tense. The crowd whispers. What could a gesture from a washed-up veteran mean? Then it happens. From the rooftops, from alleys, from the very shadows of Mayfield, men appear. Quiet, deliberate, disciplined. Not suits. Not street thugs. Not police. Operators. Their movements are precise, practiced, lethal. Every step screams of training most men can't imagine. They don't brandish weapons, not yet. But the way they position themselves, flanking, circling, is enough to freeze Carl Maddox's entire crew in place. One by one, the townsfolk realize these aren't strangers. They're Navy SEALs. A voice cuts through the tense air, deep and steady, carrying authority forged in combat. Stand down. The crowd parts as a tall figure steps forward. Salt and pepper beard. Eyes sharp as rifle sights. The weight of command in every stride. Commander Briggs, Hawk says softly, almost to himself. The man nods once. You didn't think we'd let you carry this alone, did you, brother? The crowd gasps. Hawk, this quiet old man on the bench, hadn't just been a veteran. He'd been part of something bigger. And those brothers weren't just in memory. They were here, flesh and blood. From across the square, Carl Maddox finally emerges from his car, cigar burning like a fuse between his fingers. His smile is thin, venomous. Well, isn't this touching, Carl sneers. A reunion tour. Old men playing soldier. The SEALs don't move. They don't need to. The weight of their presence alone is enough to shift the balance of the square. Carl points at Hawk. You think your war buddies scare me? This is my town. My business. And I'll burn it to the ground before I hand it to a bunch of washed-up ghosts. Hawk takes a step forward, calm, deliberate. Careful, Carl. You're outnumbered, outtrained, and out of your depth. Carl laughs, but it's hollow now. His men look uneasy. They fought drunks in alleys, not operators who could dismantle them before they even drew breath. Commander Briggs turns to the townsfolk, his voice booming like a judge delivering a sentence. For months, this man has been carving out your town, using your port, running poison through your streets. And your own lawmen turn a blind eye. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Maggie grips the diner doorframe, her face pale but fierce. Sheriff Cole tries to protest, but Briggs cuts him off. We don't deal in rumors. We deal in intel, hard evidence. And we've been watching. The SEALs produce files, photographs, intercepted communications, proof that Carl Maddox has been funneling narcotics and weapons through Mayfield, using intimidation and bribery to keep the town under his thumb. The townsfolk look at Hawk differently now. He hadn't been paranoid. He'd been right. Hawk and Briggs lock eyes. There's a moment of silence between them, weighted with history. Didn't think I'd see you again, Hawk says quietly. Figured you'd be on that bench until the day they carried you off. Briggs replies with a faint smile. But when we heard Maddox was pushing into your AO, he pauses. Well, brother, we couldn't just watch. The other SEALs step closer, forming a semicircle around Hawk. Some nod at him. Some clap him on the shoulder. Battle-forged camaraderie doesn't fade with time. It only waits for the call. Carl snarls, refusing to back down. You think this ends because you showed up with a few shadows from past? I've got politicians on my payroll. Judges. Men who outrank you 1,000 times over. You'll be gone by sunrise, and I'll still own this town. Briggs doesn't blink. Maybe, maybe not. But one thing's certain. He gestures toward Hawk. You picked the wrong man to underestimate. The crowd murmurs. Even the deputies, once dismissive, now look shaken. Kyle swallows hard, his smirk gone. Hawk steps forward, close enough that Carl can smell the salt of his sweat, the iron of his resolve. I told you, Hawk says. I warned you. Now, you're out of time. The first shot echoes across the square, like a thunderclap. Glass shatters. Mothers scream. The crowd scatters in every direction, diving behind cars, storefronts, anything that might shield them from the invisible threat. Hawk doesn't move, not out of fear, out of calculation. His mind, sharpened by years of combat, maps the angles. That shot wasn't meant to kill him. It was a warning, or bait. The SEALs know it too. Their formation shifts instantly, each man locking into his role like cogs of a machine. Sniper, 2 o'clock high. Briggs barks. 2 operators peel away, scanning the rooftops with hawk-like precision. Another sets up a counter-sniper position, rifle up, breathing steady. The crowd may see chaos. Hawk sees a battlefield. The second shot comes faster. This one isn't a warning. The round smashes into the hood of a deputy's cruiser, spraying sparks and steel shards. Deputy Kyle dives for cover, his arrogance evaporating in the blink of an eye. Sheriff Cole curses, scrambling behind the courthouse pillar. Where the hell are they coming from? Cole shouts, voice breaking. Briggs doesn't answer. He doesn't have to, because suddenly Mayfield Square erupts. Black vans screech around the corner, doors sliding open. Men in tactical gear pour out, their faces masked, their movements precise. Not Maddox's usual street-level muscle. These are professionals. Contractors. Mercenaries. Bought and paid for. The town of Mayfield has become a kill zone. For the first time, Hawk's voice cuts through the chaos. Calm. Firm. Commanding. Shadows left flank. Pivot around the crowd. Bravo team cover the south approach. Sniper suppression now. The SEALs move without hesitation. Civilians gape in shock. The old man they dismiss as broken and forgotten is barking orders like a commander in the field. Briggs gives Hawk a quick look of recognition, then grins. Still got it, brother. Through the smoke and confusion, Carl Maddox emerges again, shielded by his mercenaries. He doesn't flinch at the bullets flying past. This was always the plan, Hawk, he roars across the square. You thought a few old ghosts could stop me? I brought in men who eat, sleep, and breathe war. Not fossils, not memories. Professionals. Hawk's eyes narrow. He sees the truth in Maddox's words, and the lie underneath. These men are skilled, but they're not brothers. They fight for pay, not for each other. That's a weakness Hawk knows how to exploit. The first wave of mercenaries charges. Automatic fire tears through the square, windows exploding, brick chipping. One SEAL dives, rolls, and returns fire with controlled burst. 2 targets down, clean and efficient. Another drags a mother and child into cover behind a bench, shielding them with his body. Hawk doesn't hang back. He grabs a fallen deputy's shotgun, pumps it once, and moves with surprising speed. At close range, the boom of the 12-gauge rattles the square, scattering mercs into cover. The townsfolk, watching from behind shattered glass, begin to see the truth. This isn't just an old man. This is a warrior. Inside the diner, Maggie refuses to hide. She bursts through the door with an old hunting rifle in her hands. You think I'm letting you tear my town apart? She yells, taking position beside a SEAL. Her hands shake, but her eyes are steady. Hawk spots her and nearly shouts, but there's no time. A mercenary breaks through the line, charging toward her. Maggie fires, the recoil knocking her back, but the man drops. The SEAL beside her nods once in respect. Good shot, ma'am. Maggie breathes hard, fear and pride warring in her chest. She's no operator, but tonight she's part of the fight. Minutes feel like hours. The mercs press hard, but the SEALs hold stronger. Suppressive fire, alleyway. Briggs calls. A coordinated burst pins down the attackers. Hawk advances, moving cover to cover like he never left the field. His body may be older, but the instincts are razor sharp. Then Hawk sees it, movement on the rooftop. The sniper, with no hesitation. Hawk sprints across open ground. Bullets snap past him, one grazing his sleeve, but he doesn't slow. He ducks behind a delivery truck, racks a shotgun, and fires upward. The slug smashes into the sniper's perch, forcing him to retreat. The square erupts in cheers from the hidden townsfolk. The old man isn't just surviving, he's leading. From behind his shield of mercs, Maddox screams, "Kill him! I want that old man's blood on the bricks." But his voice cracks. For the first time, he sounds less like a kingpin and more like a cornered rat. His mercenaries hesitate. Some glance at one another, unsure. The SEALs fight with precision, discipline, and unity, things money can't buy. Maddox's men fight for a paycheck, and suddenly that paycheck doesn't feel worth dying for. The rumble grows louder, deeper. Not the clatter of pickup trucks or the roar of street bikes. This is something heavier, more deliberate. Then it appears. An armored personnel carrier lumbers around the corner, its steel hull catching the glow of street lamps. Behind it, 2 black SUVs roll in formation. The convoy looks military, but there are no markings, no flags, no insignias, just cold, anonymous power. The townsfolk who dared peek from windows duck back in terror. Sheriff Cole swears under his breath. Even Briggs, hardened SEAL commander, mutters, "Hell just rolled into Mayfield." Maddox straightens his suit, brushing off dust and glass. His mercs rally around him, bolstered by the sight of reinforcements. This is the end. Hawk. Maddox bellows, "You can't fight steel. You can't fight an army." The APC's rear hatch slams open. More mercenaries spill out, their body armor glinting under floodlights. They move with training, not amateurs, not thugs. These men were once soldiers. Now they're soldiers for hire. But Hawk notices something else. The way they spread. The precision of their diamond formation. They're not just mercs. They're ex-military contractors, likely ex-special ops. Maddox bought himself a steel curtain. He takes in the layout. APC Center. SUVs flank. Contractors advancing. Snipers still lurking rooftops. It's a kill box, and he's in the middle of it. Briggs crouches beside him. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and they've got armor. Odds aren't in our favor. Hawk pumps the shotgun once. The sound sharp as thunder. Odds never were. Inside the diner, Maggie clutches her rifle, trembling. They'll level the whole square, she whispers. Deputy Kyle, pale as paper, looks around desperately. We don't have anything that can stop that thing. No RPGs, no javelins, no. Shut your mouth, Cole growls, though his voice wavers. For the first time in decades, Mayfield is united in fear. But Hawk steps into the open. His boots scrape the bricks as he advances toward Maddox, shotgun at his side. The square holds its breath. I've seen real steel curtains, Hawk calls out, his voice cutting through the night. I've been pinned under Soviet tanks in Eastern Europe, buried under steel in Panama, hunted by enemies who didn't quit. And you know what? Steel rusts. Steel burns. Steel breaks. His words carry weight, not bravado, but memory. Maddox sneers, though there's unease behind his eyes. You're bluffing. You're one old man with a scattergun. They'll crush you in seconds. Hawk smirks faintly. Maybe, but here's the difference, Carl. Your men fight for pay. Mine fight for each other. And when the smoke clears, the only name anyone will remember is yours. The man who tried to buy an army and still lost to a bench warmer. The SEALs chuckle darkly at that, their morale hardening. Maddox flushes red, his composure cracking. Briggs leans into Hawk. We've got one shot. That APC, rear armor's weak. If we can rig a charge, we might cripple it. Hawk nods slowly. What V we got to work with? One SEAL pats his pack. Enough C4 to make Maddox regret his life choices. But planting it? That would mean crossing open ground under heavy fire. A suicide run. Hawk looks around. At the battered town. At Maggie gripping her rifle. At Cole and his trembling deputies. At the terrified townsfolk peeking from behind shattered glass. He knows exactly who has to make that run. But before Hawk can speak, Maggie storms forward. You're not going alone, she hisses. This is my town. My square. My fight. Hawk almost protests, but then he sees it. The fire in her eyes. Not military fire, but something older. Stubbornness. Pride. The refusal to bend. Briggs nods. We'll need her. Cover fire, distraction. She'll keep them guessing. For a moment, Hawk allows himself a small smile. He thought he was alone. He was wrong. The contractors tighten their grip, weapons raised. The APC turret swivels, its mounted guns sweeping across the square. The people of Mayfield can feel the tension like static in the air. One spark, and the whole square will explode into chaos again. Then Hawk calls out, loud, commanding, steady. Carl Maddox, you wanted to end this in the square? Fine. Tonight, you face men who don't break. Men who don't run. Men who remember what honor means. The SEALs tighten formation. Maggie racks her rifle. Sheriff Cole swallows hard, then draws his revolver with shaking hands, stepping to Hawk's side. Even Kyle, pale and sweating, raises his sidearm. It's no longer SEALs versus Mercs. It's Mayfield versus Maddox. The square detonates into chaos the instant Maddox drops his hand. The APC turret roars, spitting lead like a dragon's breath. Windows explode, brick chips spray the air, and the sound is deafening. A metal thunder rolling over Mayfield. But Hawk and the SEALs? They don't freeze. They move. Move, move, move. Briggs shouts, his voice like steel. The SEALs split with perfect precision. Two breaking left, two right, their rifles barking control bursts. They're not wasting ammo. Every shot is deliberate, suppressive, strategic. Years of muscle memory guide their hands. Hawk advances down the center, shotgun booming with each step. His shoulders roll with recoil, but he doesn't falter. Every squeeze of the trigger drops a Merc in his path. And Maggie? She holds her ground by the diner door, firing measured shots. She's no SEAL, but she's steady, her aim cutting gaps in the mercenaries' advance. For the first time, Maddox's men stumble. The steel curtain wavers. But the APC remains a real threat. Its turret sweeps toward the SEALs on the right, pinning them against shattered storefronts. Briggs ducks back behind cover, curses, then slams a block of C for into Hawk's hands. It's got to go on the back panel. Only weak spot. Hawk nods, his jaw set. He doesn't need instructions. He's done this before. Deserts, jungles, war zones where steel monsters prowled. But crossing 30 yards of open ground under heavy fire, that's a dead man sprint. I'll draw its eye, Briggs growls. You plan it. Hawk shakes his head. No, you've got a team to lead. I'm already a ghost in this town. The SEAL commander locks eyes with him, then nods once. No time for debate. Only action. Hawk breaks cover and runs. The world slows. Bullets whip past his ears, ricochet off stone, punch into the asphalt at his heels. The turret swivels, tracking him like a predator. Every step is agony on his old knees. His lungs burn, but he runs anyway. Maggie screams his name, firing wildly to keep the mercs off him. Briggs and his SEALs laid down a storm of cover fire, their rifles thundering in rapid cadence. Still, the distance feels endless. At last, Hawk slams against the APC's steel hide. He's so close he can smell the fuel, feel the vibration of its roaring engine through his chest. He crouches low, keeping out of the turret's arc. His hands work fast, taping the C4 onto the rear armor plate. His fingers tremble, not from fear, but from adrenaline and age fighting against precision. The mercs spot him. A shout rises above the firefight. Boots pound pavement. Rifles angle down. Hawk jams the detonator in place, slams the button, then rolls hard to the side. The blast tears the night apart. A fireball engulfs the APC's rear, lifting the steel beast 2 feet off the ground before slamming it back down. The shockwave rattles windows a block away. The turret's gun falls silent, its barrel sagging like a broken arm. Flames lick out the hatch, and smoke pours skyward. The steel curtain has been torn wide open. No! Maddox howls, his voice raw with disbelief. He shoves one of his men aside, pointing at Hawk. Kill him. Kill him now. But the mercenaries hesitate. Their armored beast lies crippled, burning in the square. Their invincible image is shattered, and in its place stands a bloodied, aging SEAL with smoke curling around him, proof that steel breaks. Some still fight. Others falter. Discipline crumbles. The SEALs exploit the hesitation instantly. Briggs leads a push, his men advancing like a blade slicing through cloth. Clear left. Stack on me. Frag out. Grenades roll, rifles bark, and mercs drop in seconds. What was once an overwhelming force becomes a scattering mob. Hawk staggers to his feet, pumping his shotgun with grim determination. Maggie rushes to his side, her rifle empty but her courage blazing. "You're insane!" she gasps, tears streaking her dust-covered face. Hawk smirks, smoke clinging to his beard. Takes one to no one. But Carl Maddox isn't finished. His face twisted with fury, he climbs atop one of the SUVs, ripping an M4 from a fallen merc. "You think you've won?" he screams, firing wildly into the square. "I'll bury every one of you." The shots scatter, forcing the townsfolk back into cover. His rage is feral, unhinged. And Hawk knows it's no longer about mercenaries or APCs or even the town. It's personal. Maddox wants him dead, more than anything else in the world. Hawk shoulders his shotgun, eyes locking on the man who destroyed Mayfield's peace. The years melt away. He's no longer an old man on a bench. He's the operator again. The quiet ghost who outlasted jungles, deserts, and war zones. The SEALs regroup around him. Maggie loads another mag Sheriff Cole, bloody but unbroken, steadies his revolver, and together they advance toward Maddox, toward the final reckoning. The battlefield has gone strangely quiet. Gunfire dies down, replaced by the crackle of flames from a ruined APC. Smoke drifts across the square like battlefield fog. Mercenaries lie scattered, some groaning, most silent. But Maddox still stands. Carl Maddox, CEO turned warlord, grips his stolen M4 like a lifeline. His once-tailored suit is shredded, soaked with sweat and ash. His face twists with rage. Not the cold calculation of a businessman, but the primal fury of a predator who's been wounded. His eyes lock on Hawk. Not Maggie, not Briggs, not even the SEALs flanking him. Just Hawk. You think one old ghost can stop me? Maddox snarls. I built empires on blood. I buried men better than you. Hawk doesn't answer. He just steps forward, shotgun low, gaze steady. His silence is its own weapon. Briggs starts to flank, but Hawk lifts a hand. Halt. This is mine, Hawk says, voice like gravel. The SEAL commander studies him for half a beat, then nods. He knows when a man is claiming his fight. The square becomes a silent ring, the survivors holding back, the world narrowing down to two figures. The ruthless mercenary king and the weathered SEAL who refuse to die. Maddox makes the first move, screaming as he unloads the M4. Hawk dives behind a stone planter, shards exploding around him. He rolls, pumps his shotgun, fires. A blast that shatters the SUV windshield beside Maddox. The CEO ducks, firing back, his shots wild but furious. He's not trained like Hawk, but desperation makes him dangerous. The two circle, the air thick with smoke, each shot echoing across the ruined square. You're nothing without your brothers. Maddox taunts, voice ragged. You're old, slow, a relic in a dying town. Hawk reloads calmly, eyes never leaving him. You're wrong, he says at last. Old ghosts don't fade. They haunt. The line cuts deeper than Maddox expects. His face contorts with fresh rage, and he charges. They collide. Maddox swings the M for like a club, smashing it into Hawk's ribs. Hawk grunts, pain flashing through him, but he doesn't fall. He slams his shotgun barrel into Maddox's gut, driving the air from his lungs. The two men grapple in the smoke, trading blows like exhausted gladiators. Maddox is younger, stronger, but Hawk is trained to endure, to suffer longer, to fight when everything inside begs to quit. Every SEAL in the square sees it. The years peel away, revealing the operator they once knew. Maddox wrestles Hawk to the ground, pressing the rifle stock against his throat. Hawk's vision blurs, edges darkening. Maggie screams, stepping forward. Briggs grabs her arm, holding her back. He has to finish it. Hawk digs deep, pulling from that well of quiet endurance forged in cold oceans and hostile deserts. With a guttural roar, he twists, slamming his elbow into Maddox's jaw. Bone cracks. The rifle clatters free. Hawk scrambles up, shotgun in hand. Maddox staggers back, blood running from his mouth, eyes blazing hate. The CEO spits. You won't do it. You're soft. That's why you're old and forgotten. Hawk chambers a shell. The sound is deafening in the silence. No, Hawk says. That's why I'm still here. He fires. The blast hurls Maddox backward off the SUV. He crashes onto the pavement, motionless, smoke curling from the wound. The square falls silent again, but this time it's different. The mercenaries who remain drop their weapons. Some flee. Others kneel, surrendering. The battle is done. Hawk lowers his shotgun, shoulders heaving. For a long moment, he just breathes, staring at the spot where Maddox fell. Briggs approaches, laying a hand on his shoulder. Hell of a fight, brother. Hawk nods once, but his eyes drift past Commander, toward Maggie, who runs into his arms, relief breaking into sobs. You came back, she whispers. Always, Hawk answers, voice rough. Sheriff Cole limps forward, surveying the ruined square. Town will never be the same, he mutters, but it'll live. The SEALs gather, silent sentinels. They know the battle may be over, but Hawk's war, the war inside him, still lingers. For tonight, though, justice has been served. The flames have burned low. The gunfire is gone. What remains is silence, the kind of silence only battle leaves behind. The town square is broken, scarred by smoke and blood, yet somehow it feels alive. Survivors move carefully among the ruins, whispering like they're afraid to disturb the ghosts that linger in the air. And on the bench, yes, the same bench, Hawk sits once more, His shotgun rests across his knees, his battered cap pulled low, shadows hiding his eyes. But for the first time in years, people don't look through him. They look to him. The kids who once mocked him now stare in hushed awe. Businessmen who cross the square without a glance now stop, shoulders bowed with respect. Even Sheriff Cole, bleeding and bandaged, tips his hat as if saluting a general. Hawk doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His silence, once mistaken for weakness, is now the voice of everything he's endured. Maggie kneels in front of him, her hands trembling as they reach for his. She doesn't hide her tears. Not anymore. "You saved us," she whispers. Hawk shakes his head. "No, I just stood where I had to stand." Briggs chuckles softly, dropping onto the bench beside him. "That's what we always did, brother. You just did it longer than the rest of us." For a moment, they sit shoulder to shoulder. Two warriors, scarred but unbroken. The SEAL commander approaches, his team gathering behind him. Their uniforms are torn, faces streaked with soot, but their eyes burn with recognition. He salutes. "On behalf of the teams, welcome home, Hawk." Hawk returns the gesture slowly, the weight of it sinking deep. For years, he carried the quiet shame of being forgotten. Tonight, he's remembered, not for glory, not for medals, but for the simple, brutal truth. He never quit. The SEALs move out, their silhouettes fading into dawn. Soldiers on one mission, always leaving as ghosts. The first light of morning spills across the ruined square. Hawk watches it rise, the golden glow painting over blackened stone. He thinks of the brothers who didn't make it home, their faces etched into his memory as clear as the scars on his hands. He thinks of the years he spent invisible, an old man on a bench no one cared to know. And he thinks of tonight, of the choice he made to stand one last time. His chest tightens, not with sorrow, but with peace. Maggie rests her head on his shoulder, whispering, "What will you do now?" Hawk doesn't answer right away. He looks across the square, where townsfolk are raising their flag again, torn but still flying. He looks at Briggs, who stands guard like the fight might start all over. Finally, he says quietly, "I'll sit. I'll watch. And if the world forgets me again, that's fine. But if it ever comes knocking..." He pats the bench. "It'll know where to find me.